Let's start here. List 3 chemical texture services performed by barbers. So, chemical texture services encompasses 3 primary services. What are those services? Permanent wave. So, perm.
Color.
Relaxer. Who said that?
What is it?
No, I don't want any guesses. If you don't know the answer, don't just yell out something. Alright? There are 3 primary services involved with chemical texture services. Color is a totally different chapter in service. Alright? We say perm, which is short for permanent wave. We have the relaxer, and we have what's called a reformation curve. Reformation curve, right? Permanent wave, relaxer, reformation curve. Now these are all chemical texture services that affects the hair a certain way, right? It does something to what? What does it affect? It affects your wave pattern. It changes it. Is that change permanent or is that change temporary? That is a permanent change. So chemical texture services create permanent changes to the natural wave pattern of your hair, right? That's what it does. And we'll get into how it does that as well. Now, it specifically changes. Each one of these have a specific way that it changes that wave pattern, right? A permanent wave changes what to what?
Curly to straight.
A permanent wave changes curly to straight. Everybody agree with that?
I know, no, straight to
On my other,
It's straight to curly.
make your mind up. Is it curly to straight or is it straight to curly?
It's straight to curly.
All right, that's correct. Permanent wave turns straight hair to curly. Y'all forgive my handwriting? Please just listen, all right? Permanent wave turns straight hair curly, right? Relaxer does what?
Curly to straight.
Turns curly hair straight. Curly straight. Now what does my reformation curl do?
It'll change the type of curl.
It changes my curl pattern from what to what? It changes it from a small curl to a larger curl. Reformation. It reforms my curl. It changes it from a small, natural curl to a larger curl. Right? Who can tell me why the scalp should be examined before performing chemical texture services?
It had like cuts and stuff. Open sores.
So,
Maybe.
we want to determine if we can perform this service, right? Chemical texture services, we have to determine if we can actually perform the service. So I need you to understand the difference between a hair analysis and a scalp analysis. Y'all need to pay attention when you see that in the form of a question. Scalp analysis, we're looking at the scalp, we're checking for, what did you say again, Taylor? Cuts, abrasions, sores, anything, infections, anything that's going to stop me from performing the service. That's what I'm looking for when I analyze my scalp, right? Once I determine that my scalp is good, now I want to go into analyzing my hair. And to my next question, what characteristics of the hair should be examined before I perform the chemical texture services? There are 6, I believe, characteristics that I should examine the hair for before I actually perform my chemical texture service. Who can tell me what they are? Density is one. That is correct.
Porosity.
Density. Hold on. Porosity. Texture. Elasticity. What else we got? I got density, porosity, texture, elasticity. What else I got?
They said length.
Length. Length is correct. What else we got? We got one more.
The hair growth, like the direction.
Hair growth pattern. Direction of hair growth. Absolutely right. All right. Now, let's talk about them. Let's talk about why these are important and what they are. All right. Direction of hair growth pattern. Now, let's start. We said density first. Let's start with density. First of all, tell me, who can tell me what density is?
The amount of
What is density?
The square root, square inch in the root.
The square inch in the root.
It's the amount of hair that
You on target. You on target. Density is the number of individual hairs per square inch on the scalp. Right? Now, how does density directly affect chemical texture surfaces? Come on. See, y'all supposed to be in your books. Y'all supposed to be in your books going along with me. I know the answer. I need you to know the answer. Come on. Interactive. Let's go. Density. Density. How is it going to affect chemical texture surfaces? Let me help you out. I'll give you the amount of product to be used. The more dense the hair, the more hair there is, the more product you're going to use. Porosity.
that's the time, how long you gonna stay on.
What is porosity first? And you're absolutely right.
The amounts of like how fast it absorbs.
Porosity is the hair's ability to absorb moisture, right? The more porous the hair, the faster it's going to absorb. And so you're absolutely right. It's going to affect chemical texture surfacing processing time. Because the more porous that hair is, the faster that product's going to get in there. All right? My porosity is a direct effect of the cuticle scale. Right? Cuticle being the outer layer of my hair shaft, the outer layer of my hair strand, right? The more tight, the more compact that cuticle layer is, the more resistant that hair is. The more loose, the more open that cuticle layer is, the more porous the hair is. Everybody get that? That's how porosity affects chemical texture. Texture, let's talk about texture. What is texture?
The diameter of the
Not the diameter of the root, the diameter of the hair strand. But you're right. Texture is defined as the diameter of an individual hair strand. It is characterized as coarse, fine, or medium. The wider the strand, the more coarse. The smaller the strand, the more fine. Now, how does texture affect our chemical texture surfaces? Processing time. Coarse hair tends to take more processing time than fine hair. However, it is possible for coarse porous hair to process faster than fine resistant hair. That's why you have to understand all of your characteristics and know how to analyze for them. Who knows how to analyze for porosity? How do you analyze for porosity?
you take the
Strands of hair between your fingers, rub down the strand. I'm sorry, I don't have a mannequin in front of me, but that's right, okay? And what happens when you run your fingers down that mannequin?
It'll feel like rough.
It will ruffle up. So the more ruffles you get, the more what? The more porous that hair is. All right, the less it ruffles up and just stay smooth between your fingers, the more resistant that hair is. Good morning, Mr. Grumble. All right. Next, elasticity. Elasticity. What is elasticity? Elasticity is the hair's ability to stretch and return to its natural length without breaking. Right? Very elastic hair can stretch up to 50% its normal size and come back without breaking. Now, how does elasticity affect chemical texture surfaces?
You said greater elasticity the longer the wave remains.
Say again?
The greater the elasticity the longer the wave remains.
The more elastic that hair is, the longer your curl or wave will stay on the hair. Right? And the more it will form a good strong curl or wave, the more elastic it is. Very good. Length. How does length affect my chemical texture surfaces? So,
You said hair length may determine the wrapping technique to use.
hair length could determine the wrapping technique you're going to use. And why is that? What would be the difference between longer hair or shorter hair? Different wrapping patterns, but what do you have to try to make sure you avoid with longer hair? Why would you change that pattern? Because longer hair, it's heavier for one, and it tends to, you're gonna have to choose a wrapping technique, because if you're going If you're going straight rod and not spiral, right, the hair wraps around itself. So as you get mid-shaft toward the scalp, now that longer hair towards the scalp is not rodded as tight, right? So that curl may not be as strong between mid-shaft and the scalp. So that's why you have to determine that with longer hair lengths. All right? Direction of hair growth. Why is my direction of hair growth important? That you have to rod with the growth pattern. Rodding against a heavy growth pattern string, right, could cause breakage. All right? All right. Now, okay, what two layers of the hair shaft are most affected by chemical texture services? What two layers of the hair shaft are most affected by chemical texture services? The cuticle and, we just said it, the cuticle and the cortex, right? A hair shaft has three layers. What are they?
Cortex, medulla, and...
Cuticle, cortex, and medulla. The medulla is just the innermost layer, and some hair does not even have a medulla present. So it's the cuticle and the cortex that are affected by chemical texture services. All right, chemical texture services. Now, what type of substances are used to penetrate the cortex and to break those chemical bonds? Anybody? Who can tell me why pH is important? Come on. If I want to get through the cuticle, I need what type of substance? Alkaline. Thank you, Mr. Grumman. I need an alkaline substance. All right, for those of you who may not have heard this or don't understand, pH stands for potential hydrogen. Chemical texture substances are highly alkaline substances, right? You have acid, you have alkaline. You have, the scale ranges from 0 to 14. 7 is neutral. 0 to 7 is acid. 7 to 14 is alkaline. Why is this important? Alkaline, 7 to 14, loosens, softens, swells, opens the cuticle layer. Alkaline, softens, swells, opens the cuticle. Acid, hardens, constricts, closes the cuticle layer. Everybody get that? So once again, our three services perform three chemical texture services. Permanent wave. Permanent wave turns straight hair curly. Our relaxer turns curly hair to straight hair. And our reformation curl turns curly hair into a larger curl pattern. The changes that are achieved through this process are permanent. What characteristic of the hair is directly noticed when performing chemical texture services? What's that? What are we changing? The natural wave pattern. All right, we're changing the natural wave pattern. And how are we changing a natural wave pattern? By doing what? By breaking the disulfide bonds. Disulfide bonds and sulfur bonds are the same, right? We're breaking the disulfide bonds, which are strong chemical bonds. Now remember, you have three types of side bonds in the hair: hydrogen, salt, and disulfide, right? They each make up equal amounts of the strength, flexibility, and elasticity in the hair. Because even though hydrogen bonds are weaker than disulfide bonds, they're more numerous. You're going to have more hydrogen bonds, so that strength is still going to be the same. They each make up a third of that hair's strength, elasticity, and flexibility. Your side bonds, your hydrogen, your sulfur, your salt bonds, right? They all make up equal parts of the strength, flexibility, and elasticity of the hair, right? Hydrogen bonds are easily broken by heat or water, okay? Which means when you see a person get a roller set, when you see a person get a flat iron, those hydrogen bonds have been broken. That wave pattern is now changed temporarily. Once that hair becomes moist, it's going to now revert back to its natural wave pattern. She had curly hair, she got a flat iron, she went out into this Houston humidity, her hydrogen bonds reverted back to their natural state. Right? Now her hair is curly again. Salt bonds, weak bonds, broken by change in pH, right? Still temporary changes to the hair. Disulfide bonds or sulfur bonds, same thing, disulfide sulfur, strong chemical bonds. When they are broken, the change that is resulting is permanent, right? And those bonds are broken through an alkaline substance that penetrates, which we'll get into our active ingredients of our different chemical texture services, right? Those ingredients break through the cuticle, they get into the cortex, they break the disulfide bond, right? That bond is now broken. Now I can take this straight hair, I can put it on a rod, I can roll it up, right? And now I can neutralize it and reform those bonds. And now that strand has taken on the new pattern of the tool that I just rodded it with. You get that? Or if I'm doing a relaxer, I'm adding my product and now I'm smoothing with my comb. And so now I'm straightening out that curl pattern while my bonds are broken, right? And then once I get the new pattern, the new wave pattern, I go in and do what to reform my bonds? I just told you, I neutralize. That's gonna reform my bonds. That's gonna lock my hair in its new wave pattern. All right, everybody get that? All right. That porosity, right? That porosity, the condition of that cuticle layer, that outer scale, is going to determine what strength solution I'm going to need to use and how much processing time I'm going to need. The tighter, the stronger, the more compact that cuticle layer is, the more resistant that hair is. The stronger potential substance I may need, the longer potential processing time I may need. The weaker that cuticle layer, the more porous that hair is, the less processing time I'm going to need. Now, know this about porosity. Over porosity is a sign of damaged hair, right? Over porosity is a sign of damaged hair. If hair is over processed, over porous, you do not want to put chemical texture services on that hair. All right. Now, remember, elasticity is our hair's ability to stretch and return to its natural length without breaking, right? The more elastic that hair, the better it's going to be at holding a curl or wave pattern, right? Density is also going to affect us because density is the number of hairs per square inch. The more dense the hair, that means the more hair there is, right? Everybody get that? So if it's more dense, I'm going to need more product because I have more hair, right? The length as well affects how much product, because the longer the hair, the more product I'm going to need, right? We said our two layers are mostly affected, our shaft, hair shaft, our cuticle, and our cortex, all right? And we use alkaline substances to penetrate into our cortex.